Hey friends, and welcome back to another episode of Rabbit Chat. On this week's episode, we are going to discuss all things rabbit feeding. So we are going to cover everything from a complete pelleted diet to a whole foods, all natural, fresh diet, and everything in between. I look forward to talking to y'all about this today. This is one topic I am extremely passionate about, so before we get started, I want to go ahead and apologize. A lot of times when I get passionate about something, I talk about it in a way that can make it seem like I believe that's the only way that something can happen, and that's not necessarily true. My goal in this video is to show you an unbiased view of how to feed your rabbits and tell you the goods and the bads of each. I will tell you how we feed our rabbits in this video, but I do not want you to think that that is the only way you can feed your rabbits or that I believe any other way is bad. I just want to get that out there. So think of it like this. You've got a rabbit who is fed this natural, healthy, fresh foods diet. As somebody who never eats processed food, only eats healthy organic foods, right? Has a great nutritional diet. And then you see somebody who eats maybe pre-planned meals. We will call it like those frozen TV dinners. They may be nutritionally balanced and have everything they need in them, pre-packaged in one thing. All you have to do is serve it and go. And then you've got those in the middle who eat like Hello Fresh. Their things are pre-packaged somewhat, but there's a little bit of fresh and there's a little bit of processed, and it's all in the middle. Okay, so those are our three different styles of eating. We're going to break that down into rabbit terms, but I just want you to know that in these three categories, everybody's getting their nutritional needs met. Everybody is getting the full nutritional makeup that they need. Maybe TV dinners was not a great example, but you know what I mean, like a healthy version of the TV dinners, not the junk kind. But everybody is getting what they need to eat and survive and live a healthy life in all three ways. Now, are there goods and bads to each? Sure. How you do it is how you do it, and how I do it is how I do it. But at the end of the day, as long as our rabbits are fed, that is all that matters. My goal with this video is to give you all of your options, to lay them out in front of you and let you choose which diet fits your life better, and how to understand how to swap between those diets. So maybe if all pellets is what is good for you right now in your life because you are busy, you've got your kids to put first, your family to put first, and that rabbit diet needs to take a backseat, okay, maybe later on it's a little bit slower and you can swap your diet to a different style. Okay, I'm going to help you figure out how to transition between those diets and go back and forth in a way that is healthy for your rabbit, that does not cause bloat or other GI issues. The first diet we're going to talk about today is one that is probably the most common in the rabbit world and one that people absolutely swear by, and that is pellets. Now again, rabbit pellets are not bad, but in this diet portion, we are going to talk about a complete pellet diet. Often a complete pellet diet is only seen in straight commercial rabbitries, because in a complete pellet diet, the rabbit is getting rabbit pellets and that is it. No hay or other supplementations. They are only getting pellets. They are either free fed or given a certain amount of pellets every single day, and that is their only food source that they will ever see. That is a complete pelleted diet. If you are feeding a complete pelleted diet, please make sure you are feeding a complete pellet. Most people do not realize that the rabbit pellets they buy at the store are not a complete diet. What that means is a lot of times rabbit pellets have a lower fiber content in them because they are expecting you to feed it with hay. If you're not feeding it with hay, you're not meeting the fiber content your rabbit needs to prevent GI issues. So if you are feeding pellets and nothing else, please make sure that you are feeding the right protein percent and fiber percent that your rabbits need in their diets. It is extremely important that you meet these numbers. Complete pelleted diet is not one that is commonly used, even though people swear by rabbit pellets. Why is that? Because rabbit pellets, for one, are fairly new to the rabbit feed game. If you have read any of my books or seen me speak in public, then you know that rabbit pellets have only been around for about 100 years. They were developed in the mid-1920s to 1950s era right there when there was a rabbit research group out in California who studied rabbits to try to enhance the commercial rabbitry business. And so they studied what was the easiest way to feed and care for rabbits that could be set and standardized for these commercial rabbitries to get the most bang for their bucks in the sense of feed and care. So they wanted to get the most profit off the least amount of input. And rabbit pellets were born because they allow somebody to put the feed in the dish and walk away. There's nothing else to it. You put the feed in there, you walk away. You put the feed in there, you walk away. Or you can use a J feeder where you just fill it up and the rabbit just continuously eats on it, and then you fill it up like every few days or every week, depending on how your J feeder works, and then you don't have to do anything else. So that style is great for those who are commercial rabbitries who have hundreds of rabbits to care for and do not have the time to sit there and go to each rabbit cage every single day and feed their rabbits. I gotcha. It is also great for those who have big families or lots of busy activities. Maybe you want to raise your own food, but you don't have a whole lot of time to do so because you work a 9 to 5, your husband works a 9 to 5, your spouse works a 9 to 5, whoever works a 9 to 5 with you, and you have kids who are in school or after school activities, and you're here and there and everywhere, and you just don't have the time to sit there and focus hours each day on your rabbitry. I gotcha. Rabbit pellets are good. Go and buy a good quality rabbit pellet that is a complete pellet and your rabbit is taken care of. You just fill up their feeder, you fill up their water, you're good to go. Okay, so that's an option. That's a valid option. And that is used in a lot of situations like that. You can often buy these rabbit pellets at farm and feed stores, but again, just make sure you're reading the bag and that it is a complete pelleted diet and meets your protein and fiber requirements. Now, probably the most common diet fed to rabbits is a complete pellet with hay and fresh foods added in. So you're feeding your pellets, but you're providing unlimited hay to your rabbits. You may be picking them some grasses or some dandelions in the spring, some tree leaves, giving them some twigs or branches or something to chew on. If you are going with a pellet diet, this is the pelleted diet I recommend because it gives your rabbit a variety in their life, and I truly believe that variety is the spice to life. If you had to sit there and eat an MRE, the same MRE, every single day to get your calories in, it would sustain you. You would be healthy-ish. MREs aren't quite that healthy, but it would sustain you. And you would get your nutritional needs met, but you would be bored out of your mind. And guess what? Rabbits get bored too. So if you add in additional things to mix up with those rabbit pellets, you're going to save yourself a little bit of trouble with your rabbits because they're not quite as bored, so they're not going to be looking for things to get into. A rabbit who sits there in a cage all day with a pelleted food source that they eat once and done, they have like 23 hours left in their day to get up to trouble. And I am so sorry, guys, if those goats are so loud. We got new baby goats and they are adjusting to being here and not on a different farm with their family. But if you're gonna feed pellets, adding in some twigs here for them to chew on, some tree leaves for them to chew on, some grasses for them to chew on, things like that is a great idea. You can still put the big feeders up in there, but when you go check on your rabbits for your daily check or whatever, grab some greens on your way, grab some sticks on your way, throw them in the different rabbit cages. Now, if you have 100 rabbit cages, this could take a really long time. If you have 100 rabbit cages, I'm really hoping that rabbitry is your only business because holy crap, that's a lot of rabbits to take care of. But give them some things to play with and to chew on and to take up some of that time so they're not chewing on their cages or their enclosures or their bedding or their nest boxes or their waterers or whatever else you have in their cage for them to chew on. Just grab some things, add some variety to their life, add some spice to their life, increase their diet. So yes, they're still getting their nutritional needs met with their pellets, but they have some fun add-ins in there as well. That is a great diet for your rabbits to be on. I totally get that. And you can do that diet in any amount that you want. You don't have to just feed one twig here and one twig there and one blade of grass here, one blade of grass there. They're like, no. You can do this partial pellet, partial whole foods diet any way that suits your lifestyle. So before we move on to feeding a whole foods diet, I want to teach you the different ways that you can do this diet because it is one that I am most commonly asked about. So like I said, said. You can feed your complete pelleted meal and then add in a few treats. You can feed half of your pellets a day and increase the amount of greens and fresh foods and stuff you're giving to make up for those half of pellets taken away. Absolutely. Love it. Another way to do this diet is to feed an all pelleted diet in the winter and then an all whole foods fresh diet in the summer and spring time. This is great for those who want to feed an all fresh foods diet but have a really long winter growing season. These are for my northern friends. We don't have issues like that because I can literally grow ryegrass all year round. It doesn't get that cold here. We don't have very many frost days. We very rarely have snow. We had no snow this year. So I can do this diet year round, but you may not be able to, and that is okay. So feed your rabbits pellets when you can't feed them whole foods, and then feed them whole foods when you can. This will cut your feed budget in half or 2/3 or whatever your growing season is where you can feed fresh foods, and then you only have to pay for pellets during the winter time when you don't have the fresh foods available. This is a fantastic way to do this diet. Now, you can pick up blades of grass, you can pick up different weeds. I highly recommend weeds to feed your rabbit. Not only does it get weeds out of your yard or your garden or wherever else, but weeds are very nutritionally dense. A lot of them are medicinal, so they can help in boosting your rabbit's immune system or fighting off any issues that you are not aware of, and they are good for them. A weed is just a plant that is growing somewhere that you don't want it to be. It does not mean that it is a bad plant. It does not mean that it should not exist. It is just somewhere you don't want it to be. So pull it and give it to your rabbits. They will benefit from it, and you will not have that weed where you did not want it. Now, some common weeds that people really don't like growing around are dandelions, for one, which are very medicinal, very good for your rabbits. Please feed your rabbits those dandelions. Brambles like wild blackberries. Oh yes, so good for your rabbits. You don't want them there, and your rabbits can benefit from them. Thorns and all, you do not have to dethorn them. Cleavers are another one that I see growing absolutely everywhere. This is like the sticky weeds. It will literally cleave to your skin and your shirt when you pull it. Your rabbits will eat that, stickies and all, and benefit from it. So go ahead and go out and about and look and see what you have growing that you can feed to your rabbits. Now, the biggest thing with this diet is transitioning your rabbits from pellets to fresh foods. You're going to have to do it very slowly. So what I want you to do is, before you transition to fresh foods, you pick a few, you give them as treats. They're still getting all their pellets, you're giving these fresh foods as treats. Do that for a few days to a week and increase how much you're giving them. And so then you'll go from doing all pellets and some treats to cut your pellets back by 1/4 and increase your fresh foods by 1/4 of what they will be in the end. And feed that for a week, and then cut your pellets back to where they're now half of the original amount and give half of them in fresh foods. And then, I bet you're guessing where this is going, a week later, cut your pellets to 3/4 of what the original amount was and give 3/4 of your total amount of fresh foods. And then the final week, no pellets, all fresh foods. You're now on an all fresh foods diet. Now when you are going in reverse, do this in reverse. Cut your fresh foods back, give your pellets. Cut your fresh foods back, give more pellets. Cut your fresh foods back, give more pellets until you're in all pellets and no fresh foods. Transitioning a rabbit's diet slowly is the safest way to go. I'm telling you, please do it slowly. Rabbits are hindgut fermenters like horses, not ruminants like cows and goats. That is often mixed up, and I just want to set that straight. So they are hindgut fermenters. What this means is when a rabbit eats its food, it goes into the stomach. It starts to break down. From there, food goes into the intestines and starts to, digest. And part of the way through those intestines, you have a cecum. It comes off kind of like an appendix, okay? So think, how your appendix comes off of your intestines? Think of it like that. So the cecum comes off of the intestines. So most of the food goes through the intestines and out the anus as rabbit fecal pellet. But a portion of that food goes from the intestines into the cecum. And in the cecum, you have bacteria. This is where all of the good bacteria in the rabbit lives. That bacteria ferments the food that is now in the cecum, and it breaks it down. It develops additional nutrients, and then it passes on back out through the intestines out the rectum as cecotropes. So cecum produces cecotropes. The cecotropes is a soft squishy poop that your rabbit will eat straight from his butt. Yeah, I know, it's gross, but it is what rabbits do and it keeps them healthy. So the rabbit cecotropes contain protein, fiber, vitamin B's, vitamin K, minerals, nutrients, and gut bacteria. So this is how they re-ingest their gut bacteria to keep their guts going. It is a very important part of their diet. Sounds gross, I know, right? But that good bacteria that they find in these cecotropes is used to eating whatever food you have given your rabbit, because that's what they have grown on, that's what they've thrived on, they've digested it, they've eaten it, and that's produced more bacteria in the cecum, and then that's what goes in your rabbit. So if you're giving your rabbit one certain type of food, like whole foods that are fresh and green, and the bacteria is used to chowing down on these fresh green whole foods, and then all of a sudden you're giving it pellets that are dry and hard and they contain compacted nutrients that are like in these small little forms, the bacteria don't know what to do. So the bacteria starts to die off, it's trying to adjust, it's trying to get used to eating this new type of food, and that produces gas, and then it causes bloat in your rabbits, and bloat can be very deadly. Well, the same is true in reverse. If you have fed these bacteria pellets for a long time, and then all of a sudden you're throwing these fresh foods at them and they have no pellets to live on, the bacteria is dying. It is wilting because it does not know how to handle this fresh food nutrients that you are throwing at it. And so the body is trying its best to adjust, but it just cannot do it fast enough. And then again, your rabbits do not make it. To prevent this from happening, what you do is you slowly add in those foods. That way you're adding a few fresh greens, and that good bacteria is like, oh, this is something cool. Let's develop these special bacteria who can eat this fresh foods. We're gonna keep eating our pellets. Now you have these bacteria that are slowly developing to eat these fresh foods, and you're good to go because the majority of your bacteria is eating what it's used to eating. And so then after you've developed these special bacteria who eat these fresh foods, well, then you increase how many fresh foods you give it. And guess what? You already have bacteria who are used to eating those fresh foods. And now they're like, oh, we know how to do this. Let's produce more bacteria like us who can eat these fresh foods. And so then they grow more bacteria who can eat these fresh foods. And then the week later, you add in more fresh foods. And guess what? You already have a lot of that bacteria who can eat those fresh foods. They just need to make more. And so then they do that. And then you keep going. And now all of your bacteria has transitioned to a fresh foods diet, and you have no bloat issues. Again, in reverse, they do the same. You add in a few pellets, they create a few bacteria who eat those pellets. You add in more pellets, and they're like, hey, let's make more bacteria. More bacteria go to eat those pellets. The ones who are eating the fresh food, they're like, they don't need us anymore, so they're passed out through the feces, and they're dead, and then they don't reinfect, and then they just keep going until they're basically all transitioned out, and you have all new bacteria who eat pellets and not fresh foods. Hello, Daisy. There's a cat on my foot. Hi. Interrupted by a cat. Can you say hi to the friends, Daisy? Daisy is our farm cat, our mouse catcher, our snake keeper awayer, and our wild bunny tamer catcher. She leaves my rabbits alone, but she chases the wild bunnies and is bringing them to her kittens because she has 4 kittens inside right now. All right, can I finish talking about rabbits? Okay, so now you understand how you transition from a whole foods diet to a fresh food diet, and you can transition back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, however meets your needs at your given time. It is okay to change your rabbit's diet as long as you do it slowly. So now we've covered pellets. We have covered pellets and partial whole foods. Now let's talk about a whole foods only diet. Before you jump down my throat or think that this is not possible, let me remind you to the beginning of the video when I told you rabbit pellets have only been around for about 100 years. Guess what they fed before rabbit pellets were a thing? Whole foods. If you have read my book, then you know that rabbits were credited for saving the United States during World War II, because during that time, people were growing gardens and they were feeding their families from those gardens, and they were raising rabbits and feeding those rabbits from their gardens. And that allowed the processed food industry to send all of that processed foods overseas to the soldiers fighting the war for us. So that meant that our soldiers did not starve and were able to eat this processed food. And that meant that they kept fighting because they had food to keep them going. Because people in the United States were raising rabbits and chickens and gardens and were surviving. They fed the rabbits off these gardens. It wasn't until about that time that rabbit pellets were developed anyway, so they didn't really have an option. Those rabbits thrived. They fed those families on a whole foods diet. Even better than that, rabbits have been known to be eaten for meat since BC times. BC times. Y'all, we are in AD times, BC times. This is way back, thousands and thousands of years ago. Rabbits were eaten for meat by the Roman Empire. They used to put them in rabbit gardens, which were just like fenced in fields where they could go out there and hunt rabbits for meat, and they would eat them then. And then it kept going. They were eventually domesticated and bred by French monks in the south of France for meat and food, and that is where a lot of our rabbit breeds come from, is because they were breeding for certain characteristics. And now here we are. It's come a long way. But people have been raising rabbits for meat since way back. But pellets have only been around for 100 years. So I've gotten that all out there to tell you it is possible. Do not discount this diet. Our rabbits are fed on this diet. So what is a whole foods diet? A whole foods diet just means that you feed your rabbits in the most raw, real form of food available. This does not mean that you have to only feed them fresh feed that you go and pick in your forest, which you should do as well, because that's part of a whole foods diet. But it does not mean that that is your only option. You can feed them oats, a favorite of ours, sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds, alfalfa pellets that are alfalfa only an ingredient, timothy pellets that are only timothy an ingredient, different things that are good for your rabbit that maybe are store-bought and not just produced on your homestead. That's okay. You can also feed them hay. A nutritional hay is a major portion of your diet for your rabbits, or it should be, especially on a whole foods diet. Get you a good quality hay. Use the rest of this as a supplement to that diet. Now, the key with that was a good quality hay, so it needs some good protein and fiber content in it. But a good quality hay is fantastic, and it doesn't have to be just Timothy. Timothy is like the gold standard of hay that a lot of people are like, you have to feed your rabbits Timothy. You do not have to feed your rabbits Timothy. Our rabbits have never eaten Timothy hay in its raw form, ever. Sorry guys, it just hadn't happened. Ryegrass is what we grow on our ground to feed our rabbit. Alfalfa or Bermuda grass hay is what we feed them when we buy it in bale form. Meadow grass is also a great option for feeding your rabbits because it is a diverse plant life. It is basically what grows in a meadow, you know, just like a wild opening of grass. That is a fantastic option. That's what rabbits are living on in the wild. Nobody out there is telling them that they have to eat Timothy hay. So discount that. You can feed Timothy hay. Timothy hay is loved because it has a great protein and fiber content that is fantastic for your rabbit. But I just want you to know, if you cannot get Timothy hay, that is not your only option. On top of that, you can feed wild wheat. I've already told you that wild wheat are the most nutritionally dense form of plant life out here. They are fantastic, y'all. Kudzu. If you live in the south or anywhere where kudzu grows and you have the availability to get kudzu that is not sprayed, please feed it to your rabbits, your goat, whatever you have, because kudzu is nutritionally dense. It is fantastic. I even tried to talk Kenneth into letting me grow kudzu here on our property. He didn't go for it because it takes over everything in the south, but I would have loved it for animal feed. On top of kudzu, ryegrass is high in protein. It makes up a lot of our protein in our fresh foods because it is so high in protein. It's lower in fiber, so we feed it with other things, but we count on that protein. Tree leaves, like these behind me, obviously we have plenty of trees and saplings. I cut them down all the time and feed them to the rabbits. They will eat the bark, they will eat the wood, they will eat the leaves, they will eat different portions of what they need from that plant, and what they don't need, they leave behind. Now, everybody wants to know, what if I feed my rabbits something toxic because I don't know what they can eat out there? I am here to tell you that there are very few plants out there that your rabbit will eat and fall over dead. Actually, there's like not very many that I know of at all that your rabbit will eat and fall over dead, because it's just not how it works. There are plants that are toxic to rabbits, but a lot of them are, the rabbit has to be exposed to it over a long period of time, or it has to eat this large, massive amount of this plant to kill it. Most of the times, it's going to cause your rabbit to be sick in other ways, and you can know that that's not good for your rabbit, and you can change their diet. Or it will taste bad to your rabbit and they're not gonna want to eat it. So if your rabbit doesn't want to eat something and you've tried to feed it multiple times, there is very possibly a reason that your rabbit does not want to eat that plant, and you should discontinue trying to feed it to your rabbit. Your rabbit knows what tastes good and what doesn't. You do not, because you don't eat all of these plants. There are a few things we know right off the bat that your rabbit should not eat. So cedar, like, should not even be near your rabbits at all. I don't care if it is sold in a pet store as cedar bedding for your rabbit pens. Do not use cedar. Do not use cedar. I'm not joking. Like, I have people all the time who are like, my rabbit is sick. I don't know what's going on with my rabbit. And I'm like, Okay, well, what's their housing look like? What does their feed look like? And the people have used cedar bedding because it's sold in a pet store for rabbits. And their rabbits are very, very sick. Cedar can cause respiratory failure in rabbits. It can cause liver failure. It can cause your rabbit to die or be very immunocompromised from living in this cedar bedding. Even killing dried cedar bedding is a no-go for your rabbits. Never feed fresh cedar. Never put cedar around your rabbits. Next, anything that grows in a bulb form, do not give it to your rabbits. We're talking onions, garlic, daffodils, any like flower that comes in a bulb, like a tulip bulb, that's a no-go for rabbits. If it's in a bulb, automatically no. Additionally, any nightshades should generally be avoided in the plant form. The fruit of these nightshades, except for potatoes, are great to give to your rabbits. This means tomatoes, they can eat those. They are a fruit and should be given in small amounts as a fruit, or a green bell pepper, they can eat those as a fruit given in small amounts. But the leaves are getting into the sketchier, more toxic side. Yes, I will occasionally have rabbits who eat pepper leaves. 1 pepper leaf or 2 pepper leaves a week is not going to necessarily kill your rabbit. A whole pepper plant, on the other hand, is going to make them very sick. So you see where we're getting there? It takes a lot of something to impact your rabbits. Little somethings, not so much, except for cedar. No cedars. Another thing to know about what to feed your rabbits and what not to feed your rabbits. Think about wild rabbits and how they eat. This is my ground. Rabbits eat up here. They do not dig and eat down here. That means if it grows underground, do not feed it. Anybody want to guess what grows underground that is commonly fed to rabbits that should not be fed to rabbits? Any guesses? Carrots? Carrots, y'all. It's a hill I will die on. Do not feed your rabbits carrots. Please do not feed your rabbits carrots. I know Bugs Bunny ate carrots. Bugs Bunny lied to you. He really did. Rabbits are not supposed to have carrots. Carrot greens are fantastic for rabbits. Carrots? No. If you see a rabbit in your carrot patch, they are eating the greens off of your carrots. They are not eating the roots. Rabbits are not digging up the roots to eat your carrots. Rabbits are great diggers. Rabbits can dig huge tunneling burrows, but they do not dig up your carrot. Why? Because they're not supposed to eat your carrots. Will rabbits eat carrots? Absolutely. Should rabbits eat carrots? No, they should not. Why is that? Carrots are like a ginormous chocolate bar for a rabbit. You may see a carrot this big, but you were this big. Rabbits, on the other hand, are this big, and a carrot that is this big to them is like a chocolate bar that is this big to you. If I sat there and handed a rabbit a carrot, it would be like me handing you a 20-pound chocolate bar. Is it going to taste delicious? Absolutely. Are you going to eat some of it? Absolutely. If you eat the whole thing, you're going to get very sick. Why? Because your body is not meant to eat 20 pounds of chocolate, and neither is a rabbit. Y'all, I have been there. I have given a rabbit a carrot that was this big that grew in my garden that was not worth me processing or doing anything else. This big. Guess what? That rabbit developed immediate diarrhea and stopped producing milk because she had so much diarrhea. It made her very sick. Now, my rabbits eat a whole foods, fresh foods diet, and she still reacted that way to carrot. If your rabbit is in a cage, you may not even realize that they're having diarrhea because it's falling through. My rabbits are in rabbit tractors and colonies and a cage, and depending on where they're at, I can very clearly see what their diarrhea looks like or not. And I knew better, but because it was this big, I was like, a little bit of treat every now and then ain't gonna hurt nobody, right? I like a little chocolate bar. Y'all, never again. And there are gonna be some people who say, I feed my carrots all the time. They're okay. I've done it for 20 years. They're okay. Guess what? I smoked cigarettes for 10 years and I'm still alive. That don't mean they were good for me. Carrots are not good for your rabbits. Okay, I'm gonna get off the carrot train. Off the carrot train. If you want to feed your rabbits treats, that's great. I love to give my rabbits treats. Sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds, green bell peppers, tomato slices, cucumber slices, zucchini squash slices, whole okras. My rabbits love okras. That's one of their favorite treats. Different kinds of flowers that they can actually eat are sweet to rabbits because of the pollen and nectar in them, and they're like a treat. Fruits, if you give fruits, it should be in a very small amount because of the same reason we don't give carrots. It has too much sugar in it. So think like 1 berry, 1/4 inch slice of banana, something small like that. That is still a good treat for your rabbits. Your rabbits are small. They don't need a treat that would satisfy you. They need a treat that would satisfy something small. Now, why do we not give sugar to rabbits? There's a reason. It's not just because I don't want your rabbits to have sweet things. When you give them sweets and you give them carbs, it takes that gut bacteria we talked about in the cecum and puts it into overdrive. They are really producing, man, really producing, trying to get those sugars broken down. Well, now you have an overload of gut bacteria in your rabbits. And if you fed them too much of this sweetness, guess what? They're going to start producing cecotropes in overdrive, over excess. That is that squishy, runny poop that your rabbit normally eats, but your rabbit should only eat it once a day. And if it's producing it continuously, it's not eating it continuously. But remember, cecotropes are jam-packed with nutrients. Your rabbit is putting fiber and protein and vitamins and minerals that they need in their body into these cecotropes. If they're not eating it, all of that's going out on the ground. All of it. They are throwing nutrients in these cecotropes and putting it out on the ground, which is leaving them depleted of nutrients. It is leaving them depleted of hydration, because cecotropes are very soft stools. They're not dehydrated like fecal pellets are, so your rabbit's having to put some of its water resources into those cecotropes. If you're continuously pushing them out, you're depleting your rabbit of water. So now you have a rabbit who has less water in its body, a rabbit who has less nutrients in its body, less fiber in its body, and it is constantly pushing out these cecotropes that it cannot eat, and it cannot reabsorb those nutrients. That is how you deplete your rabbit's nutritional system very fast. I do not want you to do that to your rabbit. It is not good for them in any way. While yes, I am very passionate about not feeding your rabbits a ton of carrots and fruit and things like that, there is a reason behind it, because even though you are showing that rabbit love, you're making it sick. And that is not a good way to show love. Now, a lot of people want to ask us if we can meet our rabbit's nutritional needs through vitamins and minerals, and the answer is yes. A whole foods diet can absolutely meet your rabbit's nutritional needs. If you want to come for me and tell me, well, I fed my rabbit a whole food diet and it got very sick, my answer is, what did you feed it? Did you feed it a balanced diet? So yes, you can meet vitamin and mineral nutrients in a whole foods diet, but you have to know what whole foods contain the vitamin, minerals, and nutrients that your rabbits need, and make sure they get those. So your rabbit needs fat. That's why we add pumpkin seeds and sunflower seeds into our diets. Fiber. That's why we add hay into our diets. Protein. A high protein hay is great for your rabbit. Different micronutrients and minerals. Guess what? Those are found in wild weeds. Feed those to your rabbits. You can get there, I promise. But you have to feed a variety. Remember, variety is the spice of life. So we always feed at least 5 foods to our rabbits each and every day. Why? Because a variety is what is needed. If our rabbit needs more protein in their diet that day, they will eat more that is protein heavy. If they need more fiber in their diet that day, they will eat more that is fiber heavy. And before you say, well, I don't have time to pick 5 foods every single day for my rabbit, let me tell you, hay counts as 1. Always have hay available. Sunflower seeds, that's 2. Oats, that's 3. Lettuce, that's 4. Carrot tops, that's 5. There you go. You have 5 foods. But it's easy to do. Risk and pros and cons of each. Obviously, pellets are convenient. They have a set nutritional makeup in them, and you know your rabbit's needs are getting met. Cons of pellets. Rabbit pellets have an expiration date on them. Many people do not know. You should not be buying rabbit pellets in bulk unless you have rabbits in bulk to feed. Don't go out and buy 20 bags of rabbit pellets if you don't have 100 rabbits, because you're not going to go through 20 bags of rabbit pellets before they expire. Why do rabbit pellets expire? Because the nutrients and the oils and stuff in them begin to break down, and now they are not containing the right amount of nutrients that your rabbits need in their diet. Okay, so listen to me here. Let's reason this out. You go out and you buy 3 bags of rabbit pellets, right? You have 5 rabbits at home. 3 bags, 5 rabbit. That rabbit pellet has been made in a factory. Then it's bagged up, it's sent to a warehouse where it sits on a shelf till the store orders it, and then it's sent to the store where it sits on the shelf till you buy it. Then you buy it and you take it home, and it sits until you feed it to your rabbits. You bought 3 bags. By the time you get to that 3rd bag, it is now several months old. 6 months after being manufactured, rabbit pellets have already lost a lot of their nutrients. Their oils and fats in them have degraded. They are no longer what your rabbits need to meet their nutritional requirement. You may not have had it but maybe a month or 2 by the time you get to the 3rd bag, but it is already like 6+ months old. It is no good for your rabbits. So you go through and you feed it. Your rabbits are getting a lower quality food to your end of that bag. You don't know that because the rabbit bag says it has what it has on it, and it did at manufacturing, not now. So then it sits there and it degrades, and you're giving a poor quality food. You go to the store and you buy a new bag of rabbit food. This bag went from warehouse to store very quickly. Maybe it's the last one unloaded because they didn't cycle their products like they should be, and so this bag is like super fresh, maybe only a month or 2 out from production. All of the nutrients in this one is fresh and it's good to go, and you're ready to feed it to your rabbits. Well, now what? You've been feeding them a low quality feed until you finish that 3rd bag. You all of a sudden throw in a high quality feed. Guess what? your rabbit just bloated. You may not have changed a single thing in your rabbit's diet and it all of a sudden bloated. You don't know why. Your rabbit's got bloat. What's different? What's the change? Guess what? It was your food. So if you feed a rabbit pellet, avoid this by transitioning from one bag to another. Buy your new bag before your old bag runs out. Take and mix like the last eighth of a bag in that with your new bag of rabbit pellets. Mix them up, feed them together so that your rabbit is slowly transitioning over. Just like we transition from a pellet to a whole foods diet and a whole foods diet to a pelleted diet, you're going to do the same with bag to bag. I even do this when I buy alfalfa pellets for my rabbit. Even though it's alfalfa in a pellet, and you know, alfalfa is fairly consistent because it doesn't have a whole bunch of ingredients in it that could be fluctuating. It's alfalfa, but I still do this because I know the ranges and how pellets break down, and I don't want to risk bloating my animals because one bag was different than another. There's your problems, your pros and your cons with pellets. Now, a half pellet whole foods diet is like the best of both worlds because you've got the pellets, you've got the whole foods. Your rabbits are used to eating both. Your rabbits get the pellets, so they're meeting their minerals, nutrients, and you don't have to stress so much over what you're feeding. You know they're getting some of those in that pelleted form, and then you're feeding whole foods. Maybe they're getting more of one and more of another at different times depending on what you're feeding, and that's fine because you're still meeting basic nutrient needs. That's great. Pros are you've got the convenience of the pellets, and you've got the whole foods to keep your rabbit from getting bored. They have things to chew on. They have things to wear their teeth down. They have more fiber going in to keep their digestive systems regular so that they're not getting GI stasis and they're not getting bloat. That's great. Cons of feeding a half pellet and half whole foods diet is you still have to buy rabbit pellets and you still have to pay for them. That's my con I got for you. There's a little bit of work in feeding that whole foods diet, but when you're feeding a half and half, it's not a ton of work. So then you transition onto your whole foods diet. Your pros of it is you don't have to buy rabbit pellets. That makes your diet cheaper. You can pull your weeds and utilize your garden scraps and your garden weeds and vegetable scraps to feed your rabbits. That's great. That's also free. But the cons are where you're not paying for something, you're working for something. It takes time to gather that produce and feed it to your animals. It takes time to make sure that you've got the minerals and nutrients right. It takes time to learn what you can feed to your animals. So you're not paying with money, you're paying with time. And that is the con. It's not convenient. But if you have more time than you have money, that is the way to go. Now, knowing how much pellets to feed, how much fresh foods to feed, when to increase their feed, when to decrease their feed, what to feed grow outs, what to feed pregnant moms, all of that is a lot of information. Yes, I will cover it. Yes, it is covered in my book. It is way too much to cover in this one video, so I will get into that in a part 2 video of this. Now, if you do not know, I have a book out called Feeding Meat Rabbits for Free. It discusses all of the things you can feed to your rabbit. I go over 125 different things you can feed, things you can't feed, and how to know the difference between the two. That book has been for sale for almost a year. It is on my website, it is on Amazon, and the links for it are down in the description box below. So if you are looking to add in fresh foods to your rabbit's diet or to transition to a whole foods diet, all of that is covered in that book as well. So now I have laid out all 3 diets for you: pelleted, whole foods and pelleted, and whole foods. I want to know, how do you feed your rabbit? Did you learn anything from this video? And what you want to talk about the next time on Rabbit Chat. As always, if you had a question that I did not answer, please leave it in the comments down below. I will answer it in the comments. If you have a question I did not answer, check the comments and see if your question is already answered down there. But if you have a topic you want me to cover in the next Rabbit Chat video, leave it down below also. I've already covered breeding, so please go back and watch that. And now I'm covering feeding. Make sure you're subscribed so you see what else we talk about in our Rabbit Chat. I look forward to seeing you next time, friends. So, for now, bye. I will see you later.